We're here in Munich where thousands of people have come out to call for peace and an end to the German government's support for Ukraine in the war with Russia. There's a growing divide in Germany today between those who want the government to continue sending weapons to the Ukrainian military and those who want it to stop.
Schluss mit den deutschen Waffenlieferungen in Kriegsgebiete! Schickt endlich Diplomaten statt Granaten!
So why have you come here to Munich to protest today?
Just, in my opinion, not good. Participating in a war that's not direct confronting us. And at least I think delivering weapons saves no lives and makes no peace.
If Germany were invaded by a much more powerful army, wouldn't you want other countries supporting you and sending you weapons to be able to defend yourself?
First of all, in my point of view, they need to stop immediately the war and discuss about how you can have peace again. At the moment, it seems they want to kick us in a third world war.
Since the start of Russia's invasion 1 year ago, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has stood side by side with other Western leaders in offering billions in military support to Ukraine. But for many of these protesters, sending weapons to a conflict outside their borders is an escalation that puts them at odds with a country they don't see as an enemy.
Does that mean then, I see you standing here with the flag of the Russian Federation, that you support Russia and its war on Ukraine?
No, not like this. I just want to show that we should be friends. It makes no sense to have a war enemy on the same continent. We should be friends together. So for me it makes more sense being a friend and have good relationship with Russia instead of America, for example.
Amigo, amigo home, amigo home.
In 2022, Germany gave more than $2 billion in military support to Ukraine and plans to send $2.5 billion more in 2023. Demonstrations like this one increased after the government's recent decision to send German-made tanks to Ukraine.
Wir werden der Ukraine auch Kampfpanzer zur Verfügung stellen vom Typ Leopard 2. Und ich will ausdrücklich sagen, es war richtig und es ist richtig.
Germany isn't the only NATO member where calls for peace negotiations with Russia are getting louder. The UK, France, Italy, and several other countries saw protests in recent weeks, as polls indicate support for weapons deliveries to Ukraine is slipping among Europeans, with only about half still in favor. As the war drags on with no end in sight, it's an issue that is likely to further polarize opinions.
So this right here shows the division within Germany today. You have one protest that's calling for the German government to stop sending weapons to the Ukrainians, and another protest here that's calling for the Germans to do more to support the Ukrainians in the war with Russia.
Russland ist ein Terrorstaat! Russland ist ein Terrorstaat!
They're demanding that the German government stop sending weapons. Why is that a problem?
Because without weapons, Ukraine will lose. And that's that they want to achieve, actually.
You can do diplomacy with someone who is willing to compromise. Russia has to withdraw from Ukraine, including Crimea, and then we can sit down and negotiate.
You want them to send more weapons?
Absolutely, yes. Including submarines and whatever it takes.
Und wir werden, und das vereint uns hier bei aller parteipolitischen Debatte in vielen Dingen, das vereint die Demokraten in Deutschland. Wir stehen an der Seite der Ukraine.
One of the most outspoken politicians in Germany in favor of sending weapons to Ukraine is Marie-Agnes Strack-Zimmermann, a member of parliament from the governing coalition.
You've been one of the most vocal supporters in the German government in supporting Ukraine. Why do you support so strongly sending weapons to the Ukrainian government?
First of all, to see what happens in Ukraine, in the heart of Europe. It's the first time after the Second World War that Europe is in war again. You have always to explain to people that this attack from Russia to Ukraine attacks the whole free world, not only in Europe.
But are you worried at all that, Western governments continuing to send weapons to the Ukrainian government, that there's a risk of the war being prolonged or even spreading outside of Ukraine?
No, I don't think so. There are 1 billion people belongs to NATO, and I'm more than sure that NATO will be a good protection for all of us.
But from within parliament, dissent is growing, particularly from the far right and far left, for the German government to change course on Ukraine. Gregor Gysi from the Die Linke party has joined others from the German left in demanding an end to the government's support for the war.
You signed on to a memorandum that called for an end to military support for Ukraine because it couldn't win the war. Do you really think that's true?
Ich glaube, dass weder Russland noch die Ukraine den Krieg gewinnen kann. Russland militärisch von der Ukraine auch mit Hilfe des Westens nicht zu bezwingen ist. Aber Russland es auch nicht schafft, die Ukraine zu bezwingen, weil sie sich mit westlichen Waffen ziemlich gut verteidigen kann.
But surely you'd agree that Vladimir Putin is probably happy when he hears politicians like yourself calling for Western weapons to stop being sent to the Ukrainians.
Ja, das ist ja aber die Bedingung geknüpft, dass er einverstanden ist mit einem Waffenstillstand. Und insofern wird es ihm nicht ganz recht sein.
But aren't Western weapons giving the Ukrainians a stronger position in those negotiations that are inevitably going to take place?
Ja, von der aus jetzt ein Waffenstillstand möglich ist und dann auch Friedensverhandlungen möglich sind. Wenn man aber sagt, nein, wir machen keinen Waffenstillstand, erst wenn der letzte russische Soldat, was denn eigentlich, die neu besetzten Gebiete verlassen hat oder auch die Krim verlassen hat, oder heißt Sieg der Ukraine, dass die ukrainische Fahne auf den Kreml gehisst wird? Und deshalb wäre es doch viel klüger, alle NATO-Staaten sagen, wir liefern keine Waffen mehr, wenn es sofort einen Waffenstillstand gibt, damit keiner mehr getötet wird, keiner mehr verletzt wird und nicht immer mehr zerstört wird.
It's not just weapon shipments that Germans are clashing over. Refugees are also caught in the crossfire. Germany currently hosts more than 1 million Ukrainian refugees, and opinions are changing about what the government should be doing to help them and for how long.
We're here in Dresden in eastern Germany, where the city is preparing to open a new center that'll host refugees, including those fleeing the war in Ukraine. Now, there's a number of far-right groups that are out here protesting. They're angry because they say that when the government offers such services to asylum seekers, what it's actually doing is inviting more people to come here. Do you feel that cities like Dresden are at capacity for their ability to provide shelter to refugees coming from places like Ukraine and the Middle East?
Also nicht nur, meiner Meinung nach nicht nur Dresden, sondern ganz Sachsen hat mittlerweile so viele Flüchtlinge aufgenommen, dass wir das aktuell nicht mehr stemmen können. Also
But caught in the middle of this fierce debate in Germany are Ukrainian refugees like Tanya. After months of being hosted by a German family, she's finally moving into her own place.
First time I was here and I looked in the window, It was the reason that I chose this apartment. It was like a feeling of freedom.
In countries like Germany right now, there are some changing attitudes where people are feeling like perhaps their governments are doing too much to support the Ukrainians. I'm wondering, how do you feel about that when you hear those things?
Я спілкувалася з деякими людьми тут, в Німеччині. Знову ж таки, я не можу сказати, що вони виражають думку там більшості. Я просто задавала звичайним людям, з якими я зустрічалася, що вони думають стосовно війни. Вони хочуть законсервувати своє життя. От в них тут є якась зарплата, якийсь будинок, діти, відпустка, робота, оце все. І вони хочуть, щоб їх не торкнулися наслідки тієї війни, які от в їхньому розумінні це далеко, це десь там в Україні. І хай от вона там, от Україна сама розбереться.
What were your first observations and thoughts when you arrived here?
І перший такий день, коли я пам'ятаю, що ми от просто видихнули якось, це ми поїхали в Гросенгартен, і люди сидять просто там, не знаю, дивляться на сонечко. І десь там в моїй голові, як картинка з фільму була, коли дві реальності поряд. Оця сонячна, спокійна, мирна реальність, яка є тут. І вибухи, сирени, і оця якась пригніченість. І в мене просто це якось не вкладалося в голову. Тобто я відчувала оцю атмосферу і ауру миру і спокою. Але я все ще не могла зрозуміти, що я в безпеці.
Since you've been here in Germany, I guess you've been
in constant communication with your husband Alex back in Kyiv?
Так, звичайно, ми кожен день на зв'язку. Коли є світло, відеозв'язок, коли нема світла, важко. Ми не перестаємо бути сім'єю.
When you look back at this past year, during which time you went from being a young mom, a young wife, raising your child with your husband in Kyiv, to an asylum seeker here in Germany, what are your thoughts?
Я не хочу жити в очікуванні, я не хочу ставити своє життя на паузу, ніби як в підвішеному стані бути. От я до сих пір молода мама, я дружина, я музикант. Це все, що було в моєму мирному житті, воно в нових реаліях, але воно нікуди від мене не ділося. Це все моє життя продовжується в іншій реальності, але я маю те саме. І я маю себе з собою.
I'm Michael Learmonth, editor-in-chief of Vice News. Too often, traditional news outlets shy away from the real stories and experiences of those living through global conflicts. Not Vice News. Our reporters are on the ground, fearlessly covering the human stories that shape our world. You and millions of others can continue to read, watch, and listen to Vice News for free. But we hope you'll consider making a one-time or ongoing contribution of any size at vice.com/contribute. Every contribution, no matter how big or small, helps support the journalism Vice News brings to you every day. Thank you.